Okay, folks, away we go. This is episode 1589. It's Blind Magic in Alice Springs, and I am your presenter and host, Murray Stewart. This is a very, very big country. Yeah, for all of you all over the world, no matter where you're listening, I can tell you that Australia is very large. In fact, when people first come here from Europe in particular, they are absolutely gobsmacked at how much distance is between one place and another, particularly out here in the outback. Yeah, it's huge, particularly compared to what they are used to. But I'll tell you another thing. We're not only removed by distance, but also removed by the understanding of one another, and illustrated very much by what happened the other day with one of our politicians. Yeah, Barnaby Joyce, who has been the Minister for Agriculture in the past, and he does live on a farm, and he was doing an interview, and apparently his service dog, his farm dog, a Staffy Cross collie, was doing a bit of playing up while he was attempting to do this interview, and he did get a bit upset with the dog. In no uncertain terms, he yelled out, "Sit down!" And whoa, did that cause some controversy, particularly from the folk who live in the big cities that have got absolutely no understanding whatsoever about country life, the life on a farm, and indeed, therefore, the relationship that the farmers have with their service dogs. Because service dogs that work these farms, they're used to being yelled at all day as their master gives them their instructions in order to round up the cattle or the sheep and keep everything and everyone safe. So it's a necessary part of life for these dogs and their owners. So Barnaby yelling at his dog, no issue whatsoever, absolutely zero. So I'll tell you what I would like you to do if you have children in particular. The next time you sit down to have a meal with your children, it would be a fair bet that almost everything on the plate would have come from the hard work of our farmers. Yeah, of our wonderful, wonderful Australian farmers. Because I think there's a huge disconnect between the city folk and the country folk. And as I said, very much illustrated by the hoo-ha with Barnaby Joyce having necessary harsh words with his dog. Oh, yeah, one would think if you listen to some of the commentary here that he had committed a heinous crime against this dog. But as Barnaby said, and the dog's name is Stella, he said, Stella loves me and I love Stella. He said, no big deal. That's what happens out here in the bush. And as I say, I think your children would gain from at least acknowledging that on their plate, the food comes from the hard work of farmers. And I'll tell you what, next time you go on a holiday, maybe take a B&B holiday on one of these farms and see how it's all done. Experience rural life. It's fascinating. It's different to city life. And the kids, the country kids, they very, very uniquely different from their city cousins. Yeah, they are rural smart, country smart, and so too are their working dogs. Oh, wow, are they clever. Very, very clever. Don't forget, some of these farms have maybe up to 1,000 head of cattle or sheep, and those dogs are working hard all day in order to round them up, take them from one paddock to another to ensure that they are receiving their nourishment. Yeah, very, very clever. The blue heelers, the Kelpies, the Collies. Oh, yeah. I'll tell you what, it's not the first time that old Barnaby has been in trouble because of a dog. I don't know whether you remember out there, but remember Pistol and Boo, the two dogs that came in with Johnny Depp, the actor, and his then girlfriend? Yeah, they didn't follow correct procedure where quarantining was concerned, so Barnaby had to say, bye-bye, Pistol and Boo. No, you're going to have to go through the protocols associated with quarantine, and if you don't do that, then out you go. No, and once again, there was a lot of feathers fluffed up by the two Hollywood stars. They not used to this at all, but they eventually flew the two said dogs out of the country, and I think they received a fine for doctoring the paperwork in order to smuggle these dogs in under the radar without quarantine. Yeah, they did. They did get a bit of a slap on the wrist. But anyway, all's well that ends well. But that's the second time that Barnaby has got himself into trouble because of the puppy dogs. He's a country boy. He's a farmer. They're up there on the New England. He lives on a cattle and sheep farm, so he does see things differently to the city folk. So there is that disconnect. But as I say, get your children around the table acknowledging our farmers the next time they eat, or get out and see rural Australia and let your family get a clear understanding of how it all works and how that food eventually arrives on your plate. And then, maybe then, we can ensure that the divide between the city and country folk is lessened. Yeah, is lessened. And then we'll get a beautiful understanding of the folk out here in the bush and what they do and why it's so important. Yeah, but that was very, very interesting the other day, with Barnaby having a bit of a necessary crack at Stella. All good that ends well, and I don't think Stella would in the slightest bit be concerned. In fact, quite the reverse. They thrive on receiving instruction all day, every day. They love it. They absolutely love it, and they love being worked, and they love the outdoors. They love to run all day. All right, folks, I need a bit of help here, Heather. I think it's 1,589. Okay, and it has been that episode, 1,589, and it's been a Blind Magic Communications production.